If you missed my 11 predictions for the 2022 NASCAR Xfinity Series season, go watch that video first before I dive into my 11 predictions for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series in this video. So let's just dive straight into it and talk about the 2022 NASCAR Truck Series playoffs. And if you watch my Xfinity Series video, you would know that I'll be talking about the playoffs first and then talking about some of the guys who will miss the playoffs, as well as some bonus predictions later on in the video. Starting off with a driver who I think will finish 10th in points is Tyler Ankrum. Ankrum last year struggled mightily, and a lot of you might be wondering why I put him in the playoffs at all. I mean, especially because he missed the playoffs in a GMS racing truck. I think last year was more of an issue of quantity over quality at GMS Racing, and I think that this year, now that he's at Hattori Racing, a much more stabler environment where they only have 2 trucks to worry about, I think that all of the blood, sweat, and tears will be put into that organization, and that Tyler Ankrum will be able to thrive at that organization. I think Ankrum is going to be a really consistent driver overall. I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to be one of 2 drivers who makes the playoffs and doesn't win over the course of the year. But I still think he's going to keep his nose clean and be super consistent over the course of 2022. The driver I have finishing 9th is Stuart Friesen. Stuart Friesen really flew under the radar in 2021, and a lot of people really didn't expect much out of him. However, when he came into the playoffs, he did really, really well, and a lot of people heading into 2022 may have some very high expectations for him. I think he's going to get 1 win, and I think he's going to do really well come playoff time, but I think there's going to be some issues that hinder his abilities from moving past the round of 10 into the round of 8. I think Hallmark Racing Enterprises will do really well. Obviously, they're expanding. They're going to have Todd Bodine in the 62 truck potentially. I think Todd Bodine might do okay in his NASCAR starts. It'll be interesting to see him behind the wheel of a truck. In 8th, I have Christian Eckes. Now, Eckes' 2021 season is a little bit hard to judge because, well, he ran part-time. He did get a win at Las Vegas, so there is that, and he has shown that he can go out there and win races. I mean, he's had some good moments over the course of the year, and it'll be interesting to see how well he does here at ThorSport in a full schedule instead of a part-time schedule. I think Eckes is going to get a win, again, in 2022, and I think he's going to really show the field what he's made of and what they missed out on in the 2021 season. I think he's going to give the field a pretty hard time, and I think that he will give the guys in front of him a run for their money. In 7th, I have Chandler Smith. Now, Chandler Smith's 2021 season is actually pretty underrated. He did get 2 wins over the course of the year, snuck 1 right in there at the very end, and Kyle Busch Motorsports as a whole took a step up. Unlike previous KBM drivers who usually come into the organization and get cursed out at by Kyle Busch, Chandler Smith came in there and ended up getting praised by Kyle Busch. So I think Chandler Smith's 2022 season will be pretty solid, to say the least. I think he'll get a couple of top 10s. I think he'll get a couple of top 5s. I think he'll be really consistent. I don't think he'll be nearly as good as his teammate, which we'll talk about later, but I still think he'll be pretty good over the course of the year. So up the ladder in 6th, we have Zane Smith. Now, Zane Smith's last 2 seasons in the Truck Series have been very queer seasons by all stretches of the imagination. He finished 2nd in both of those seasons, but does that mean he was the 2nd best truck both of those years? No, absolutely not. He has not been the 2nd best truck. He has gotten 3 wins over the last 2 years, which isn't bad in Truck Series standards, but isn't good, and is certainly not 2nd best in the field. So I don't think he'll be the 2nd best this year. I don't even think he'll make it into the Championship 4. I think he'll finish 6th in the standings, and we'll have a pretty typical Front Row Motorsports year. He'll definitely be the leader of the Fords this year, but obviously I think that this will garner him a 2023 Cup Series ride. If you watched my last video, I said that Zane Smith would be in the Cup Series. I still think that this will be able to bid himself for that seat, and I think it'll just be a solid year. I think he'll get a win. I think he'll get a lot of top 10s and a lot of top 5s. The second driver who makes the playoffs but will not win over the course of the entire year is Matt Crafton. Crafton is always sneaky, always quiet, and always makes the playoffs. Very consistent as usual, and I think that Matt Crafton will continue that into 2022. Matt Crafton never wavers in his consistency, and I think he will have a very good year. I think he'll finish 5th in the standings. I think this will be an extremely good Matt Crafton year, and I think he'll be tantalizingly close to making it into the Championship 4. A lot of people might make a prediction that Matt Crafton is going to retire. A lot of people make that prediction pretty much every year, it seems like. And I don't think Matt Crafton will retire. I don't think Matt Crafton will stop anytime soon. It is a Truck Series, and there really doesn't seem to be an age limit in the Truck Series. I mean, Norm Benning is, 70? So Matt Crafton still has, a lot of years ahead of him. I think he's got a good half a decade ahead of him. He can keep on doing this until he's 50. And I think he might become like Ron Hornaday Jr. in the Truck Series. So I think Matt Crafton will prove to everybody, send a direct message to the entire field, to the drivers, team owners, and fans that he is not going to be leaving anytime soon, and he is still just as good as he was 10, 15 years ago. And then we get into my Championship 4 predictions. I have John Hunter Nemechek, Grant Enfinger, Ben Rhodes, and Carson Hocevar. So starting off, we have Carson Hocevar. I think Hocevar is going to have a breakout 2022 season. I think he's going to get 2 wins over the course of the entire year, and I think he's going to be really, really good across the board. I think Hocevar is definitely going to have a very, very nice 2022 season. I'll say it later on, but I think he'll lead the point standings at one point in time in the season, and I think that this will definitely be a good year. I think he'll blossom into who a lot of people said he really was, and I definitely think that he will vie for the 2022 Camping World Truck Series title. Carson Hocevar has a lot of talent behind the wheel, and I think we will be able to fully realize what kind of talent we are really dealing with here. Next up is Ben Rhodes. I think Ben Rhodes is only going to get 1 win, but I think he's going to be very, very consistent nonetheless. I think Ben Rhodes will also lead the point standings at one point in time. I think all of the Championship 4 drivers will lead the point standings at one point in time, and I'll make a separate prediction about that and expound on that a little bit further. But I think that Ben Rhodes' 2022 season is going to be pretty good. I mean, obviously his 2021 season was very, very good nonetheless. A lot of people will forget the statistic and will look at his championship as a fluke championship. And it was not a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, if you look at the regular season standings, he would have finished second. And so he was one of the best trucks over that entire year. Obviously, there was one guy who we'll talk about later on that was better than him, but Ben Rhodes was still one of the best trucks over the course of the entire year and fully deserved to drink that Bud Light at the end of the season. In second, I have Grant Enfinger. Now, a lot of people are going to say that I'm overrating Enfinger and saying, oh, you're probably a Chevy fan, so you're probably saying Enfinger is going to finish second. No, I firmly believe that this will be a very, very good year for Enfinger. And I have a lot of reasons to back this up. Obviously, his 2021 season left a lot to be desired for. Not really because of his driving on the track, and we'll talk about that, but because he was shoved out of his Thor Sports seat because of sponsorship, reasons. Champion Tools couldn't sponsor all of the races, so he had to reduce down to a part-time schedule. But in those races, he wasn't driving for Thor Sport. He was driving for CR7 Motorsports, filling in for Cody Rohrbaugh, and he was pretty good in those races. I think back to Coda, he was in the top 10. I'm sure it's at a road course, so there's a lot of parity, but he was up in the top 10 in a CR7 Motorsports truck. A truck where they literally build the truck in a warehouse and go out and put their name on the entry list, barely have enough sponsorship, and just get by. And Enfinger did very well with the equipment at hand. And then in his Thor Sport, races, he was very good. I look back at Richmond. He had one of the best trucks at the Richmond Summer Race, even better than the KBM trucks of John Hunter Nemechek and Kyle Busch. And then I go back to Nashville. He was knocking on Ryan Preece's door. He was hounding on Ryan Preece's door. And if Ryan Preece made one little mistake, Grant Enfinger would be right there and pick up the checkered flag that he had dropped. And so Enfinger had a lot of races, even in the midst of a part-time schedule, where he did really well and at some points outshined his teammates, outshined his Thor Sport teammates who were going out there and actually competing for a championship. He definitely outshined Christian Eckes in that 98 truck. It's honestly a shame that Grant Enfinger didn't win at all over the course of 2021, but I think he'll have a redemption year, and I think that this will definitely be a storybook season, to say the least, because Enfinger will come back bigger, better, and more competitive than ever. And so my championship prediction, and I've really only mentioned him once in this entire video because I kind of wanted to keep it under wraps, is John Hunter Nemechek. I do believe that John Hunter Nemechek will win the 2022 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series Championship. There's obviously a lot of reasoning behind this. Obviously, I think Enfinger is going to have a 3-win season. I think John Hunter Nemechek is going to have a to 6 win season. I think that Nemechek's 2022 Truck Series year is definitely going to be really, really good across the board. I think that he's going to be one of the best drivers, and I think that he will be better or maybe the same as his 2021 Truck Series self. But I think that he will be able to get a bit of a comeback, and I think he will be able to vindicate himself for his Phoenix shenanigans at the end of that race in 2021. And I definitely think that they'll go back to the drawing board and they'll work on that truck. I think Kyle Busch Motorsports as a whole has two very talented drivers in their stable, and I think that will lend Kyle Busch Motorsports a potential championship season. They've come close. They have come close. They came close with William Byron. They came close with Bubba Wallace in 2014 when Bubba Wallace had a very good year. And obviously, they have had some very, very stupendous seasons the last couple of years. Obviously, they won the championship with Christopher Bell in 2017 in this same Ford truck. So, Kyle Busch Motorsports can either compete for championships or can either win them. And but the last couple of years have definitely been a struggle since Bell left. But I think John Hunter Nemechek will obviously send a message to the field that Kyle Busch Motorsports has not gone anywhere in these last couple of years. So that got the first prediction out of the way, which were the playoff contenders. The next prediction is the guys outside of the playoffs. The first one I'm going to talk about is the guy who will finish 11th, and that is none other than Ty Majeski. Now, we don't know specifically at the time of recording who will drive that 13 car. My best guess is that it will be Ty Majeski, and so I think that ThorSport as a whole will take a step up. I'm guessing that that driver will finish 11th. I can't say specifically, but from what I've seen in the last couple of years leading up to this season, that 13 truck has hovered around the playoff cutoff. So I think that it will be a pretty good year, and it's realistic to say that ThorSport and the 13 team will finish 11th. In 12th is Matt DiBenedetto, and I think Matt DiBenedetto will have a very, very solid season. I'll talk about him later on. In 13th, I have Hailie Deegan. Hailie Deegan will definitely take a step up. She has shown that she is statistically better at tracks she goes to more than once. When she returns to a track, she usually takes a step up, and I think we will see that pattern continue into this season, and we will see Hailie Deegan rack off a couple of top 15s, maybe get the occasional top 10, rattle the can, and make some noise. In 14th, I have Jack Wood. Jack Wood did not show to me at all in this same GMS Racing 24 truck last season in 2021 that there was going to be a potential room for a superstar in the makings. I think Jack Wood has got a lot of talent. He's a great guy, but unfortunately, I just don't think that this season will be quite up to the expectations that GMS Racing wants to see out of Jack Wood and might expect to come out of Jack Wood. In 15th, I have Chase Purdy. I think Chase Purdy, again, just like Tyler Ankrum, his former GMS Racing teammate, has flocked to Hattori Racing Enterprises, a safe haven now where he can go out there, live up to expectations in the second truck. He can wipe the slate clean from 2021 and can basically go into this year without a lot of pressure and go out there and compete. In 16th, I have Tanner Gray. Again, there's not really much to report on here. I think Tanner Gray will have a very solid year. I think DJR Crossley will have a very solid year. And I think Ford as a whole will have a pretty okay season in 2022. And I think Tanner Gray will be in the middle of that. In 17th, I have Lala Salan. Besides having a really, really cool first name, I don't think that his season will have a really, really cool statistic to back that up. I think that it will just be a pretty monotonous season. I don't think there will be much to highlight out of it. In 18th, I have Derek Krauss. Derek Krauss will probably continue to be the daily competition caution. He will probably continue to not really do much to the field and not really contribute much to the well-being of the team owners' wallets, and I think that will be Derek Krauss's role in 2022. Besides that, I think it will be a horrendous season, and I think it will finish 18th for Bill McAnally. In 19th, I have Blaine Perkins. I think Blaine Perkins will have a very solid year ahead of him. He might have some good moments here and there. Again, this is the same truck that Grant Enfinger massively overachieved in CR7 Motorsports. I don't think Blaine Perkins will nearly do as Grant Enfinger did in the car, but I don't think he will be nearly as bad as maybe Cody Rohrbaugh did in that same truck. In 20th, I have Chris Wright. Again, not really much to report on here. Chris Wright is a great driver both on and off the racetrack. I don't think that will equivalent much into this season, but there might be some good moments here and there. It is Nice Motorsports after all. In 21st, I have Derek Krauss's teammate, Colby Howard. Colby didn't really show much in 2021 in the Xfinity Series, so I really cannot say anything statistically optimistic this season. In 22nd, I have Dean Thompson. Dean Thompson, besides having a really, really awesome paint scheme for the upcoming season, Dean Thompson is probably not going to be able to do much. Again, I think Nice Motorsports is going to take a step down for 3 of their trucks. I think Carson Hocevar is going to massively outshine his teammates while his teammates are struggling to get acclimated in their said rides. And in 23rd, the last driver that I will talk about is none other than Tate Fogelman. I'm going to be talking about Tate Fogelman because a lot of people are going to keep their eyes on him. He's driving for On Point Motorsports after his 2021 season, which in some respects was a very, very good year. He did win a race at Talladega in the fall, and so a lot of people are going to watch how Tate Fogelman will grow in 2022 and maybe better vindicate that win and prove to everybody that that win was not a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. But of course, I don't really see him doing much to prove himself. He might get a lot of top 20s. He might be really consistent across the board, but I think that he will finish 23rd in the standings. Down in the Truck Series, most drivers who hop in a Toyota do a little bit better than they did when they were maybe in a Chevy truck. I think a good example of a driver that went from a Young's Motorsports ride to a Toyota team and really outshined in that truck was Austin Hill. Austin Hill drove for Young's Motorsports in the 02 back in 2018 and joined Hattori the next season, replacing Brett Moffitt, and the rest is pretty much history. So could Tate Fogelman do that? That might be something to keep your eye on this year. So now we get into some of my bonus predictions. At number 3, I think that the Truck Series at Sonoma, IRP, and Mid-Ohio, as well as a return to Homestead Miami, will all prove to be a success. Sonoma historically has delivered some very good racing. IRP is a fan favorite among people who really love short tracks. Mid-Ohio is one of the best road courses in all of NASCAR, I think. And Homestead Miami, at least the last time that they ran there in the Truck Series, was very, very good. And it's a multi-groove 1.5 miles that is sure to deliver some very competitive racing with a very competitive series such as the trucks. At number 4, I have a comer and goer type season, similar to what we saw in the 2002 NASCAR Winston Cup Series. You saw guys like Sterling Marlin, Tony Stewart, and Jimmy Johnson all leading the point standings, and I think we're going to see something like that, with all of the Championship 4 drivers leading the points at some time or another this season. It's going to be really competitive, and I think the victor of the 2022 Camping World Truck Series season will look back at this year with a lot of relief. At number 5, I have Matt DiBenedetto winning Rookie of the Year. Now, a lot of you might look at this confused and say, Matt DiBenedetto, the same guy who ran Cup the last couple of seasons? Or maybe some of you might think that it's preposterous for Matt DiBenedetto to win Rookie of the Year. Nonetheless, I think the Matt DiBenedetto season is going to be very solid. I think he's going to come close to making the playoffs. And I think Matt DiBenedetto might even get the occasional top 5. I think he'll clean up his act. I think that he will find an abode in the Truck Series, kind of like how John Hunter Nemechek found in 2021. And so I think that it will be a very good year for DiBenedetto across the board. Number 6, I have there being a lot of underdogs and some very competitive racing. I've mentioned this at number 3 in my prediction, but yes, the Truck Series is always home to some very, very competitive, very, very good, and very, very classic racing. I don't think we're going to see a lot of bore fests in the Truck Series this year. At number 7, I have there not being a Camping World Army like we saw in 2021. Of course, at Las Vegas, there were 10 trucks, over 10 trucks, I think, that were sponsored by Marcus Lemonis' company. And Marcus Lemonis ended up having B-Water and some of his other companies sponsoring sporadically throughout the 2021 season. I think he'll still be involved in some capacity, but not in the caliber of the 2021 Las Vegas race or the races that were similar to that, where he was basically offering up free money for anybody who was willing to take it. At number 8, I have Toyota winning the Manufacturers' Championship and Kyle Busch winning the Owners' Championship, which I talked about in my John Hunter Nemechek prediction, and I think that it is realistic and not too far-fetched. At number 9, I have there being a Ford resurgence. I think that Ford is really going to come into form this year, and I think Zane Smith, who I said is going to be the leader of the OEM, will certainly charge ahead in his F-150. You'll kind of take Todd Gilliland's place, but I think he'll definitely do a little bit better. I think he'll bring popularity back to the F-150. I think he'll bring fame back to Ford, and he might even compete for the championship. Who knows? I think Hailie Deegan and the entire DGR Crossley camp will take a step up, especially Ryan Preece. I think Preece is going to win in his start, and I think a lot of people, a lot of the naysayers, are going to retract their statements that they made about Ryan Preece's talents. At number 10, I have there being a lot of over 40 truck fields, and this is going to be a popular discussion to be had over the course of 2022 about whether NASCAR should expand the field or not. I think there'll be a lot of trucks sent home in a lot of races, much to the despair of the NASCAR fanfare. And at number 11, I have Hailie Deegan winning the most popular driver award again. Let's be honest, I don't think that this will come as a surprise to many people. And so there you have it. Those are my 2022 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series predictions, a comprehensive list of where I think every driver is going to finish, as well as some bonus predictions that range from the on-track package to the off-track personalities. Let me know where you guys agree, and let me know whether you guys disagree with this entirely. Leave your comments down below. Until next time, this has been The News. I'll see you.